Hello, this is Joshua for Frost Dragon Designs, and today I'd like to talk to you about my civil engineering cat, Hard Enamel pin. This pin is part of my More Cats Doing Science collection. The More Cats Doing Science pin collection features more than 35 designs of cats doing science and science-adjacent activities. Now let's get into the design. Let's start with what is civil engineering. And I find this interesting because honestly, before I started designing this pin, I don't know that I really had any concept of what a civil engineer was. I mean, I knew it had something to do with construction or building. That was pretty much as far as I went with it. But what it is it's an engineering discipline that deals with the design, construction, and maintenance of things like roads, bridges, canals, the structural component of buildings. Obviously, this is very important for very large buildings, but honestly, it's just as important for small structures as well. We want them to be structurally sound. But it can also include things like sewers, pipelines, and railroads. I kind of like to think of it as is this going to work in the real world discipline? And then if it does work, how to make sure that it continues to work, that it stays working, that it doesn't fall into disrepair. So, because civil engineers are so integral to many construction-type projects, be it public works projects or private building projects, you will often find civil engineers on construction sites. And I thought that would be a more fun concept than, a cat standing at a desk drawing out some blueprints. Not that that isn't fun, but, blueprints, the idea we have of, people rolling out these big plans and working on them, yes, they might have physically printed plans at a job site, but the actual design work is all done on computers these days. So I didn't really want to go that route, which is why I chose to have my civil engineering cat wearing his fluorescent green yellow vest, and he's wearing a hard hat and goggles. He is on site doing an inspection, perhaps. And so one thing I learned while I was doing the research for this particular design was that engineers will often wear white hard hats on job sites. I think this varies by region, like where you specifically are, but in many regions, the hard hat color is coded so that you can tell at a distance which discipline somebody is in, whether they're a carpenter, a plumber, an electrician. On these big construction sites, you really want to be able to, at a glance, see who's where. And management and engineering and that sort of group tend to wear white hard hats, to my understanding. At least that's what my research told me. But I did also include some other things that I thought would be fun that you would find with them on a job site. Obviously, he's got his big white thermos, although I think I have it other colors at some points in this video. But he's got his coffee with him. If you like tea, sure, he can have tea. But I'm a coffee guy, and so I figured he needed a lot of coffee to make sure he got through his day. And yes, he has a set of project plans with him so he can compare or discuss something with someone else at the job site. But I also wanted to include a tool that's very common to civil engineering, but also to a lot of other disciplines. And in the older days, this would have been referred to as a theodolite. But now I believe we use something called a total station. I believe it basically takes all the functionality that a theodolite had, and it adds in the GPS stuff, and it's I think that's probably why they call it a total station, because maybe it's the total package. Is that why we call it that? I don't know. It's a really neat tool, though. I mean, it allows for precise measurements and surveying along with, the very precise GPS components. So it's a really, really neat tool, and you can kind of understand why it's used in a lot of disciplines. I mean, for civil engineering and construction, you can understand. You want to know, the corners of your building are where they're supposed to be. You set points in the construction to make sure that, you're not introducing error as you're building whatever you're building, your road, your sewer, your whatever. If your railroad is supposed to go to a particular destination and the angle that you are building the track at is askew, you're not going to get where you want to get. So you can see how this is an important tool. You can also see how it's important in, say, archaeology. You might want to know the exact location that a specimen was found. That way you can, check in other areas there to see if there's something nearby, or, being precise with location is very important for so many reasons. So you can see why this is a very valuable and a very useful tool, but because of the, the huge precision that these things have these days, they can often be very, very expensive. So treat your total station with care, please. Although I imagine they're kind of built, to take a little bit of a hit because they're around construction and stuff. So, I did my best with this without actually having access to a civil engineer. I poked around some forums and asked some questions here and there. And my great hope is that when people look at this pin, they're like, yeah, that looks good. That's always the hope. So anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed watching me design this pin. I hope you enjoyed hearing a little bit about the thoughts I had while I was working on it. If you did, please go ahead, like and subscribe. I try to put out 1 to 2 videos each week, and I would love to have you along for the next one. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great rest of your day.